Okay, so this is the Samsung Galaxy A11, the successor to the A10, A10s, and A10e from 2019. Now, those three phones were some of the best-selling phones in the world in 2019. In fact, the Samsung Galaxy A10e was one of the best-selling phones in the world in the first half of 2020. So what really has changed with the upgrade to the A11? What exactly are you getting, and why is this phone worth it? And I should add, this phone is probably the cheapest Samsung phone that you can buy right now. I mean, technically it's not, but you can actually get this phone for free if you are switching to AT&T right now. But for everybody else around the world, you're still going to have to pay around $140 to around $175 for this phone. So in this video, we're going to take a look at this phone, talk about all the specs and why it may be worth it for you. So first things first, this is a really cheap phone, really affordable, let me not say cheap. So you have to manage your expectations going into this review. Understand that this is a supreme budget phone, literally some of the lowest end phones that you can buy at the lowest prices right now. So try to manage your expectations going into this review. So the first thing that I usually talk about with phones is the unboxing experience, and the unboxing experience for this phone was pretty underwhelming, which is expected, because it's a really cheap phone. It comes in this really lightweight, cheap feeling box that basically just gives you the phone, SIM ejector tool, some paperwork, and you're going to get a charge brick and a cable in the box, and that's pretty much about it. Moving on from that, let's talk about the design of the phone itself. Now, speaking about the design of the phone itself, it's pretty much a plastic phone, and you're going to be getting a 6.4-inch screen, which actually still looks gorgeous thanks to the phone being a Samsung phone. Samsung basically produces some of the best screens on the market, and they do not shank on that even when they're producing their lower end, cheaper budget devices. Now, the 6.4-inch display and the size of the phone might be an issue for some people, but I think the size is actually pretty perfect. It's a completely plastic phone. In fact, you're going to get a little bit of flex when you press against the back of the phone, and the battery compartment for the phone. There's a little bit of flex there, and you're actually going to notice it when you are handling the phone. It feels cheap because it is cheap and it's extremely lightweight. The good thing though about the phones that Samsung makes that are basically this type of design and form factor is that the plasticness of them makes them really durable. Like, you could drop this phone a bunch of times and you're not going to have to worry about actually breaking it completely, even if it fell flat on its face. Another thing that I really like about this phone is the fact that they keep the headphone jack, and you actually still get USB-C charging and the fingerprint sensor on the back, even though they do include face unlock on the phone, which I have pretty much never used, but it's there in case you want to use it and you need it. And that's pretty much it for the physical bits of the phone. And I guess it goes without saying, most budget Samsung phones are pretty much dual SIM and they have expandable storage. Speaking about the actual unit that I have here, this one has 2 GB of RAM and 32 GB of internal storage. Now, I believe there are versions of this that actually have 3 GB of RAM. Those ones are going to be slightly more expensive than the initial $140 entry price, but 2 GB of RAM and 32 GB of internal storage for an entry-level phone like this, especially when you have expandable storage, is about good enough in my opinion. Performance-wise, the phone actually performs pretty well for what it is. You can play decent games like Subway Surfers and such without any noticeable lag or issues, and switching between apps is actually pretty convenient. Now, of course, when you're using a lot of applications, like running a lot of social media apps and games in the background, the processor is definitely going to kill off apps, which is totally fine. I mean, it's a very budget phone. You shouldn't be expecting the highest end kind of performance from this device. Now, moving on to the cameras of this phone, this is where things are going to get a little tricky. You get a 13 megapixel main sensor, and you get a 5 megapixel ultra wide sensor and a 2 megapixel depth sensor on the back, while on the front you get an 8 megapixel front facing camera. All 4 cameras are completely useless in my opinion. But of course, I might be judging that too harshly because I am used to using flagship phones and phones that just have really fantastic cameras for what they are. If you're looking for a camera phone, this is not the phone to buy. But if you're looking for a really affordable budget phone that just has any cameras attached to it, then this is a fantastic phone for you. You see, because whether you're taking the photos on this phone with a lot of light or as little light as possible or from direct sunlight, it just does not look great on the front camera or the back camera. And it gets even more atrocious when you're trying to use the 5 megapixel ultra wide sensor. It's just bad. Like, it's no. Now, another area of this phone that I don't really think it performs very well is going to have to be the speakers. It's just one bottom firing mono speaker at the bottom, and it's just bad. This is an area where Samsung has pretty much not even tried to improve on a lot of their budget devices and even some of their higher and more expensive devices. And I'm not sure why they just leave it to suck that bad. But just so that you get a sense of what I mean, I'm going to play a song right now from the speakers on this phone so you can hear how truly bad it is. It's not even loud.
Now that I'm looking back, I can see all the signs that in my mind, but I was all out of hope, lost in an endless maze. The emptiness had unfolded just like a void, but you broke the coldness somehow and lit up.
So, as you heard, the speakers on this phone, or the speaker on this phone, is not great. But of course, for phone calls and stuff, it works absolutely fantastic, and you don't have to worry about that being any kind of issue. Speaking about the battery life on this phone, you get 4,000 milliamps per hour in the battery, and it actually lasts a fairly decent amount. Most probably because you're probably not going to be using this phone for a lot of heavy tasks. The 4,000 milliamp hours is not only adequate, it's very, very sufficient. In fact, you can very easily get through a full day of use with this phone without any issues at all. So ultimately, this is a super budget phone that keeps the headphone jack, gives you 4 cameras which are mostly not going to be very good, a fingerprint sensor, Face ID, a nice Samsung screen. I think this is probably the highlight of this device, the quality of the screen on this phone, and the fingerprint sensor actually works pretty fast. Unlocking and locking the phone works quite snappy. It's quite surprising. So if you don't care too much about the camera and the quality of the speaker on this phone, and you have a really tight budget and you're looking for a budget phone to buy, this would be a fantastic phone to buy. If you're looking for the best places to find this phone on a budget, I'm going to have some links in the description for you to check out if you're interested in that. And pretty much my final thoughts on the Samsung Galaxy A11 is it feels like pretty much the same as the A10s from last year. I'm not sure if I feel like anything changed much, but you're not really going to notice any real changes. It's still the same 720p screen, still the same. Well, I feel like the A10s cameras were probably a little better than this one, but generally speaking, they're all still really bad cameras, and performance wise, they just perform very okay for what they are. If your budget is tight, you don't care about cameras, you don't need to be listening to music with the speaker on your phone, this is a fantastic budget phone to buy. It's a fantastic budget phone to use as a backup phone, or to buy for a really young person who is about to enter their first experience with an Android phone. It's a great phone to buy. Pretty much that is all my thoughts about the Samsung Galaxy A11. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I guess I will see you on another video that was shot by Kagan. Peace.
The God of gods